Okay, so for this next tutorial, I decided to open the line and shapes grids document again, just to build on what I was doing. I'm going to zoom in here and I'm going to play around with this section of my experimental grid. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a circle. Let's make that blue. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to copy and paste that. Control C, Control V. And I'm going to make this a red color. Next step is to go to Window, if you want, and Transparency. And you can see that it also opens in this side panel over here under Transparency. And when the transparency is open, I can actually take my object and lower the transparency. I can also adjust the blending mode like in Photoshop if I want to. So you can actually sort of make like Venn diagrams and whatnot with some overlapping areas. So I'm going to make this one more color. And once again, I can try a different blending mode if I want to, and lower the opacity if I need to. So playing around with the transparency area to help you with your shapes and lines and whatever and what have you. Okay, for this next one, I'm going to make a quick robot looking thing. Let's make this, and I'm just going to make it with strokes. So I don't need that filled in. Okay, so I've made my silly looking robot. Now the next step is I'm going to select everything. It's going to take me way too long to select all the different paint strokes by shift selecting. So I'm going to drag off to the side and drag this little box. It's called Marquee Selecting Everything. So now everything is selected. I'm going to right click. I'm going to group those together. So now it should move all around together. Now I have this group together, I can go to the next really cool feature in Illustrator. If I click and hold there's a free transform, and in the free transform is Puppet Warp. So I go to the Puppet Warp tool, you see I click on it and it's create all this mesh area for me now to go and warp my shape. So I can actually just take the pin and pin it in different areas if I want it warped. So I'm going to select that area. Maybe warp that, make it look like he's walking. So then I could go with my guy, copy and paste, almost make another frame if I want, and try changing his pose, all with that. Okay, so another popular thing inside of Illustrator is to fill things in with patterns. So if I go here to the swatches area down here, you can see down inside of the swatches area I also have a patterns library. Basic, decorative. Let's see what animal skins look like. So you can start clicking on different patterns within that. Alright, so once you have your pattern selected, there's a couple ways to kind of change it. You can go over here into the scale tool. If you don't see the scale, if it's on something else, you know, it's like a lot of things in Illustrator, a lot of the things are docked inside of other things. So you're looking for the scale tool. You can double click on that. The trick is to make sure that the transform patterns is selected. You can have both transform objects and transform patterns. I would just select the transform patterns. So we've double clicked the scale icon. Uniforms at 100%. Make sure that this is the key. Make sure that this is selected, transform patterns. You can unselect transform objects. And then we could try putting this at 200%. And you can see that that blows that up. The other thing you can click on to change the pattern is over here in the rotate. It's docked with the reflect tool. So if it's on the reflect, you just look for the rotate. double click, and then the same thing applies. Select transform patterns, and then you can rotate the pattern. Another thing you might be wondering about is how to change the color of the pattern. So you go over here, you pick a color swatch that you'd want. You could go down inside of here and pick, open up earth tones. If you wanted this earth tones swatch used for the pattern, you see that it comes up, it automatically opens up inside of the swatches panel here. So you can see that whatever I've picked over here opens up in the swatches panel here. So I'm going to pick this one, make sure that that's whatever one you want. Make sure the folder is selected. Don't select the individual thing or it goes off of your pattern, right? So let's pick the Jaguar pattern again. And let's pick this folder. And then you go over to this icon right here. You double click on it and you can see that it has changed the color arrangement. Likewise, if I go into other ones over here, brights and whatnot, you can change the color. So back to my earth tones there, if that's the color that I want. You could also go and pick that slider and change the colors within the colors here. And then that's how you can change the colors of your pattern. I'm going to double click this. Go to 200, and there you go. You can actually make your own patterns if you want to. Just as an FYI, I'm going to do a simple pattern here. I'm going to make a circle. I color that in red. Maybe make the stroke a little bit thicker to 3. I'm going to copy and paste that. Select all of them, control click, group those together. Now if I drag those up into here, you'll see that they appear as a pattern inside of my swatches panel. So you can actually make custom patterns. Now if I go over and make a rectangle tool beside this one, I could fill that with the pattern. And then this pattern responds exact same way as the other one. If I double click on this, I have that selected. I do not want to transform the object, so you need that unselected, and then you can see inside here the pattern has changed. If you're on your pattern, select the folder in the swatches, double click this, and you can change the color patterns. So everything from transparency, puppet warp, and patterns have been covered.